Hello and welcome to your daily briefing. Just a little while ago, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin held a testimony where lawmakers could ask him whatever they're curious about while he is under oath. In this video, I'm going to cover all the major stimulus-related items discussed in this testimony, including another round of stimulus checks, the total stimulus package size, negotiations on this, a second round of paycheck protection funding, paycheck protection forgiveness, and much, much more. I think this is going to be really enlightening for anyone following the stimulus in the news, so make sure you watch the entire thing to ensure you are completely up to date here. I also would appreciate it if you left a like on this video. I sat through this entire 2-hour testimony and am summarizing it into less than 10 minutes, so you don't have to. And just so you know, the following questions and answers are summaries, not exact quotes, for the sake of time and for the sake of making things more understandable. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The first question in this testimony was, is it true that only paycheck protection loans over $2 million will be audited, leaving over 99% of all loans unchecked? To which Mnuchin responded, no, that's not the case. He reiterated that what he has said in the past, that 100% of loans over $2 million will be audited and loans of lower dollar amounts may also be audited. Basically, if you get a loan over $2 million, you will absolutely be audited. Under $2 million, you might get audited. The lower the dollar amount, the less likely it is that you get audited. If you just think about how many resources are needed in order to audit everyone, that'd be impossible. So this is also a very valid question, I believe, because I do remember a few months back there were headlines basically stating that anyone with a loan less than $2 million won't be bothered, so it's good to have some clarification here. The next question was a short one, but basically asked, what are Mnuchin's thoughts on getting a stimulus package passed, in which he said there are areas that have agreement on both sides, so let's go ahead and pass those things and move forward. The next question was, what are you doing about the job replacement inequality? This person said jobs over $60,000 a year are nearly back to normal, showing a current decline of only 0.5% in total available jobs over $60,000 a year, where low-wage jobs under $27,000 a year are down 15.7%, meaning the total available jobs that make less than $27,000 a year are down that 15.7%. Mnuchin said he's not totally familiar with this data, but he does know that the service industries have been particularly hit hard, so he's not exactly surprised with these numbers. He also said he and the president agree that the work is not done yet, and this is a major issue that needs to be addressed. The follow-up question here was, is it a concern to you, Mr. Mnuchin, that this pandemic may create an even larger divide between the rich and the poor in this country? To which Mnuchin responded, this is a concern with both parties, and they have tossed the idea around of giving $10 billion to CDFI lenders, which would create $100 billion in loans to communities and people in need, areas like rural communities, minority communities, things like that. It would create more funding and more wealth in those areas. That's just one idea they've been tossing around. It is important to note that this has not been done yet, but may be a possibility in a future stimulus package. The next question is a big one. Well, it's a hot topic at least. The question is, do you support a $2.2 trillion package size? To which Mnuchin said he does not support that $2.2 trillion size. However, he reiterates that we should focus our attention on all the areas that we have agreement on. These areas include paycheck protection, money for schools, enhanced unemployment despite the disagreement on the total calculation, basically how much people should receive, stimulus checks, and post office funding, just to name a few. The disagreement is on state and local government funding. If you watched my update yesterday, this may sound a bit familiar, and this is because I surmised exactly this and commented how this fact both adds hope that there is agreement on both sides and also adds frustration because it just doesn't make sense that the sides can't come together when there is such a majority of things they do agree on. It's really just the dollar amount or the deadlines when the programs end that there's the disagreement. The next question to Mnuchin was, what are your thoughts on forgiveness for the Paycheck Protection Program? Mnuchin said the SBA forgiveness application portal is now open, but the question is how to strike the balance between ease of forgiveness and not too much bureaucracy. And a little side note here is, although the forgiveness portal is open, many banks are opting to wait before processing any loan forgiveness applications. This is because this landscape is still changing, and just about everyone is expecting the process for forgiveness, especially on smaller loans, to change in the coming months. Most lawmakers are putting a lot of pressure on making the forgiveness applications as simple as possible for the smallest of loans. I've heard numbers anywhere between $10,000, $20,000, and $30,000 to be considered extremely small loans. And really what they're saying is it's a waste to apply for forgiveness now when the process is very likely to change. So if you have a Paycheck protection loan, it's best to hold off right now, and I'm personally holding off and waiting for things to change on the forgiveness end for my business's Paycheck protection loan. And once I do apply, I plan to make a video on the process and give all the tips I have to get maximum forgiveness here. The next question was about Trump's executive order that addresses rent and mortgage assistance. First, it was criticized that the program does little to actually help people, but instead directs Secretary Mnuchin to look for funds that could be used to help out those in need. The question was, what funds have you found for this? Mnuchin says after market close today, the Treasury will be releasing significant guidance on a rent assistance program. Mnuchin says this program will be quite extraordinary and will impact nearly all of the 40 million renters in the United States. This could be really exciting. I'm personally really curious about what exactly this means. Is it some form of rent forgiveness like we've seen in the past, or is it just an extension of rental moratoriums? I suspect it will be a more inclusive rent moratorium program that includes renters of homes with non-federally backed mortgages. I'm going to be sure to report on this tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed and tune in tomorrow for more information on that. The next question was, with all of the businesses currently struggling to get by, the restaurants, the hairdressers, the millions of small businesses that are either out of business or close to out of business, have you also considered a rent forgiveness program on commercial properties? Now, this is really interesting because I haven't heard anything about this and I haven't thought about this yet. Mnuchin responded that they have considered this, but unfortunately, they do not have the authority to do this as of right now. He then followed that by saying that this is all the more reason why we should repurpose the $130 billion in remaining Paycheck protection funding to allow businesses to get another PPP loan to help pay for expenses exactly like this. And I've seen this firsthand. I own a moving and storage company, and in my warehouse, right through this wall right here behind me, we are currently storing what used to be the entire inventory of items for a hairdresser and her shop. She was unable to afford the expensive rent at her shop, and storage was a much cheaper option. If she was allowed to get another Paycheck protection loan, this might not have happened. And this is just one story of thousands or maybe tens of thousands across the country just like this. The next question regards Trump's fix to enhance unemployment. The concern is only a few states have actually started paying out the benefits, and the benefits will only last for a few weeks. The question here was, is it true there's only $44 billion in funding for this program, and what happens when this funding runs out? Mnuchin responded that there is in fact $44 billion in funding, and they are aware that this won't last forever. This limited timeline just emphasizes that Congress still needs to work to find a solution for the long term, Mnuchin says. This is a frustrating fact. The president, when making these executive orders, hoped that this would light a fire underneath Congress to find a solution even sooner. However, unfortunately, it has panned out to have the opposite effect. Trump passed his executive order and Congress hit the brakes, just pushing the problem of unemployment off for another month or two. So this is all we have for the testimony from today. My overall impression of the testimony is Mnuchin just really wants to pass the things both sides agree on right now and then just continue negotiating on the rest, working on solutions for the rest. This testimony really did make me feel hopeful that things are actually happening behind the scenes. Then to finish this off, we have a little bit of news on the Senate Republican skinny bill. The Senate is saying the current goal is to vote on this bill next week once the Senate is back in session from their recess. The latest mention of the size of this package is around $500 billion. However, I really hope to see it at around the $1.3 trillion size that was mentioned yesterday. It just seems to me that trying to pass a $500 billion bill will get nowhere when Democrats won't go below that $2.2 trillion size. So this is all we have for today. Thanks for tuning in and spending 10 minutes of your day with me. Until next time, have a profitable day.